When we talk about in jurisprudence, the very important aspect of directive principles of state policy, this is in a welfare state. A question on welfare state can come. So, welfare state, the directive principles. We have seen in the lesson on fundamental rights and fundamental duties. The fundamental rights provide the Indian constitutions are primarily political rights. The constitution makers were well aware that even if all the fundamental rights are truly enforced, the goals of Indian democracy would not be realized. And therefore, we have the directive principles. The directive principles of state policy are guidelines to the central and state government of India. The government must keep the principles in mind while enacting and framing laws and policy. It is true that these provisions of the Constitution of India are non-justiciable, which means that these are not enforceable by any court of law, but the principles are considered fundamental in the governance of the country. Now, it is the duty of the central and the state government to apply these laws to establish a just society in the country. The principles have been inspired by the directive principles in the Constitution of Ireland and also by the principles of the Gandhian philosophy. The directive principles of state policy have been listed in the Constitution under Article 36 to 51. So, read Article 36 to 51 in brief. These principles guidelines that is in mind while framing laws and policy. The idea of directive principles is said to be borrowed from the Constitution of Ireland. Now, types of directive principles: principles promoting social and economic equality, principles related to Gandhian thought, principles related to international peace and security, and miscellaneous principles. So, yes, directive principles can be related to your Gandhian thought. Now, the state shall promote the educational and economic interest of the weaker sections of the society, free education, and in particular the interest of the scheduled caste and the scheduled tribes. The state shall take steps to organize the village panchayat. This panchayat should be given such powers and authority as may be necessary to enable self-governance. The function units of self-government. The state shall make efforts to prevent the consumption of alcoholic drinks and harmful drugs. That is, the state shall make efforts to prevent the consumption of alcoholic drink and other harmful drugs. The state shall try to promote cottage industry in rural areas. We have the Khadi Gramadyog and cottage industries. The state shall take steps to improve the quality of livestock, cows, calves, and other milch and draught cattle. So you can see a lot of convent hospitals with veterinary surgeons attending to, the miscellaneous principles. Besides, these are some notable directive principles which do not come under any of the above mentioned. Now, one important concept or principles related to international peace and security, before that I'll do. The constitution makers include principles which provide guidelines in foreign policy. Number one, the state shall promote international peace and security. Number two, the state shall endeavor to maintain just and honorable relationship with one other countries and nations. The state shall foster respect for international laws and treaties, obligations. We have international conventions which have to be honored. The state shall foster respect for international conventions. The state shall encourage settlement of international disputes, arbitrations, that is by mutual agreement. Now, finally, we have miscellaneous principles. After all this, there are some notable directive principles which do not come under any of the above. Number one, the state shall endeavor to protect and improve the environment and safeguard the forest and wildlife. The state shall take steps for the maintenance and protection of the historic monuments. Yes, we having architectures thousands of years. We have the Taj Mahal, we have the Qutub Minar, we have a lot of the gateway of India. So this comes under archaeological department where we protect the the ancient structures. The state shall take steps for maintenance and protection of historical monuments, places or objects of national importance. The state shall aim at establishment of a uniform civil code. for all citizens throughout the country. This we will be doing in family law. So we have the Hindu law, we have the Muslim law, we have the Parsi law, we have the Christian law. So a lot of different laws for divorce, a lot of different laws for property rights, property inheritance. So this has to be one, and therefore we are asking for the uniform civil code. The talak, that's an important criteria. A case, the Supreme Court of India, yes, brought in this particular law. So that's an example of uniform civil code, giving justice to women who felt that this is not proper, when there is Hindus and Christian laws where all this injustice doesn't happen. It was not considered injustice, it was considered a belief in Muslim law. But Supreme Court had to dilute that particular law on the concept of equality before law and equal protection of law. And also the Shahabanu case, where Muslim women can file for alimony and protection of her rights, like the Hindu and the Christian women. So these are the miscellaneous provisions. State shall ensure for its people adequate economic means of livelihood. Directive principles. So I'll just read out 5 directive principles. For example, number 1, the state shall ensure for its people adequate economic means of livelihood. The state shall take steps to separate judiciary from executive. The state shall endeavor to maintain just and honorable relationship between nations. The state shall take steps to organize the village panchayat. There should be equal pay for equal work, and both for men and women. The state shall try to promote cottage industries in rural areas. So, very, very important concept. Respect to placement in the constitution, the directive principles come after the fundamental rights. It means that importance of fundamental rights, are more than the directive principles. Now, Shehzad Khan and Seema Danu, who led a group of young people known as the Bal Panchayat in a village near Jaipur, Rajasthan, have set a notable example of being Catholic to social development. This group of young people works on variety of issues such as cleanliness, right to education, rights of the girls of the villages and also the neighboring villages. They are very, very actively engaged in preventing child labor. For this cause, they have lobbied with families, the panchayat, the block administration to help working children go back to school. Recently, Shehzad even approached the Chief Minister of Rajasthan to present the concern regarding the lives of children in the villages. Now, these example indicates that each one should have feeling that there has to be equality in society. So this is the concept of a welfare state, which is promised by our directive principles of state policy in our constitution. Thank you. So that was about jurisprudence.